Hey, Facebook, welcome in. What day is it? Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, it's Wednesday now. Hey, I'm Eric.
Facebook, I'm
That's Katie. What's he doing?
He's
You want to see? All
waiting
right,
for
so
a treat.
Bolt's hanging out here. There's Bolt hanging out on his couch, which he will probably do some of that here shortly. Give him another one of those delicious treats. All right, so we got a fun little science experiment that we're going to try to show you today. This is an easy one. We don't have a whole lot of to-do, a whole lot of get-up with this. It's just you have to have some luck to pull this off. Would that be fair?
You have to have good timing.
Yeah. Which we'll discuss
see.
the timing out of this. We're going to cross our fingers that we can actually end up getting this to work. So let me ask this question. I think most of the kids who, we're taught this in elementary school and middle school and all this. What temperature does water freeze at? 32 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So that's what we will always have been told. And in our atmosphere, at least, at the ground here, that's usually how it works. Temps drop below 32 degrees. We get ice that ends up forming. But what if I told you that you've been lied to?
What?
You have been lied to your whole life.
No.
Yes, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you have technically been fibbed to. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
You've been told a fib. So, yes, water usually freezes at 32, but there's a catch in there. It doesn't always do that. Sometimes water has to go way, way below 32 degrees, in which case we have a word for that in meteorology. We call that supercooled water. And it's happening right now. If you've got clouds over your head right now, some of those clouds are built off of supercooled water droplets. So here's what we've been trying to do. So we got a couple of these bottles of water here. And by the way, just for the meteorology out of this, so we can kind of, tie this all into how weather works. The way we're able to do this, the way we're able to get water and get it to still remain liquid below 32 degrees, water can only freeze if it's got something we call a nucleus. It's got to have something in there to be able to freeze around. So these supercooled water droplets, if the water is relatively pure and it doesn't have something, that catalyst, we can end up dropping the water temperature below 32 and keep it at water. But you and I have learned this if we've been experimenting with this. When you do this just right, you put it in the freezer and you give it a little flick, what happens?
It starts to crystallize.
It starts to crystallize and gets going. That little flick, the agitation is you are kind of giving it a catalyst.
Yeah.
It'll start with one little chunk of ice crystal in there, and that's the nucleus. And then it ends up, just rapidly expanding. So here's what we've been trying to do and what you would need to do at home with this. You're going to take a water bottle. Nothing special about this. It's a normal water bottle. You're not going to do anything crazy. But you're going to put it in the freezer.
We have a lot of water bottles in our freezer right now.
More than, I think, 1.5 dozen of these water bottles because you're trying to do it right. But so you put it in the freezer, and you've got to do it for about how long, would you suspect?
Well, we got up at different times this morning to put the water in the freezer, and I think the best timing is about 2.5 hours.
Yeah. I think that's about what I've read, too.
2.5 hours.
This is such a fine line here, folks, to be able to get this pulled off. So our recommendation, I think, would be don't just do one.
Do multiple.
Do multiple and
At
put them in
different times.
at different times because it's such a fine line between where it's still too warm or it's already starting to freeze.
And my favorite part is we tried this before without doing an experience. Well, we didn't try it on purpose. We put our bottle of water outside because it's so cold here in the winter.
Right.
And we like cold water that every one that we picked up and we started to drink or we opened it, it turned into ice right in front of us.
And so literally what we're gonna try to
see.
show you here is you're gonna pull this out of the freezer and it's gonna look like this. It's gonna be normal water. And mind you, you've got to be super careful here. Because again, the premise is any agitation is going to set this chain reaction off of getting it to ice over.
We've had that happen
which happens a lot. So when you are pulling it out of the freezer, you have to be very delicate, kind of like you're holding eggs or something with this. Or a baby, because anything that shakes it up is going to get this going. And that obviously would kind of ruin this. So do you want to give this a shot?
I'm going to go get the
Katie's
water
going to go grab some. These are several of our failed ones, which there are a litany of failed ones here. What you got?
Well,
we're
have agitated it too much.
Already turning over into ice?
We got one, I think.
All right, so we're going to give one a shot here. And
we may have two.
Don't worry too much about even the...
Here's this one. Take this one.
This guy here?
Yes.
All right. So here's
I
what we
think
got.
that's super cool.
Here we go, folks. So this one is fresh out of the freezer. And you see it is very clearly liquid still. I can move it around a little bit. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to give it an agitation. I'm going to shake it a little bit. see if we can get this going.
Uh-oh.
Oh, this one was quite there.
Oh, we've done this so many times.
Just need something to get it started. No, it's close, but it's not quite there. All right, we got another one. What do you
This
think
one's got
about
a
this
little
one?
ice already in it.
All right, we'll give this one a shot here. Still mainly water.
Let me see if I can grab another.
Let's give it a... Oh, there it goes.
Did you do it?
It's trying. All right, so can you see close now? Look at it. You got all these little ice fractures that are starting to go in there. Check that out. And you can feel it too. It's part water and now part ice as some of that ice gets going. There you go. And now we've turned it mostly over into ice. You got one more, you think? Give it a
This
shot.
one, maybe.
Maybe.
And I've also got a plate to show the...
Yeah, this one's...
Oh, it's already
It's already
turned.
turned over to ice. It's that delicate balance. But look at that now. You can see the almost striations of the ice in there just from shaking it up. Now, we've seen somebody on a YouTube video where this is really cool. You take a plate and
It's frozen.
you freeze the plate, and if you've done this just right, you can actually pour it on the plate, and it will turn into this mushy ice tower.
Right.
If you end up doing this just right. So it's neat when you end up getting it to work here perfectly.
This is going to be the best one.
Wow. I'm going to put the...
This one froze.
Let's put the front-facing camera on this so you can see how all of a sudden we've taken that from supercooled water now. Look at all the ice that has just rapidly ended up forming here. And it's just because it's supercooled. All we're waiting on is to just get that one little catalyst going.
But I was always under the impression that if anything is under 32 degrees, that it's ice.
Right.
And I guess that's what we learned. I mean, we're not very familiar with snow in the South.
The reality is, like, even in our drinking water, this is not pure water. There's no water that's out there where
It
everything in
even
that
says
bottle is going to be entirely 100% pure. You're going to have some kind of
This one
irritant or
says-
adjutant in something in there.
This one says purified drinking water
Yeah.
with flavor-enhancing minerals.
Well, there you go. So you've got some stuff that's in there. So it's hard to end up with pure water. But in our atmosphere, a lot of our clouds, it's a mixture of liquid raindrops that are, above freezing. It's some of these supercooled water droplets. And there's ice crystals too. And if we want to get really nerdy with this, a lot of times how snow forms and some heavy snow, there are processes in the atmosphere where there are differences in pressure from supercooled water to ice crystals. And we end up getting snow that grows, and this is how snow forms in the atmosphere a lot of times, is through this concept of having supercooled water that exists in the cloud, and they end up growing at the expense of, we've got these ice crystals that just keep stealing the moisture from it. So that gets into the really nerdy stuff out of all of this. That's a separate video entirely. But for the kids especially, look at how much this one's changed now.
And look at the air bubbles inside.
And you see how cloudy it got now too? And we have noticed that it turns into like this mushy ice when you get it to do this right.
So do you want to try to
What are you gonna try?
pour it on the frozen plate?
It won't work at this point.
No.
Yeah, because it's already turned over into ice.
Yeah, all of them. I think that was the one that...
If you get it just to that perfect temperature, it's pretty cool to be able to see it. And you will watch it, if you flick it toward, let's say, the top or the bottom here, you'll watch that ice just grow. You can see the tentacles of ice continuing to expand.
It reminds me of Elsa in Frozen when
A little
she's
bit,
freezing
yeah.
everything.
It's a neat little experiment. But again, all of this is off of, you can have liquid water below 32 degrees. And I think for a lot of people that comes as a, wait, what?
Right.
How is that even possible?
I mean, because we're taught 30... I mean, which is true.
Yeah.
Things freeze at 32.
It does, because
However-
most water that is freezing at 32 degrees, I know Bolton's crazy,
Bolton
has that
loves
nucleus
ice.
in there to be able to do it at 32 degrees.
Right.
If you don't have the nucleus, if you don't have that catalyst, that adjutant, you can end up dropping it way below 32, and then you just wait for it to go kaboom.
Yeah, but once you start it, you can't go back, though. We've learned that.
And that's the thing. So again, recapping this, give it 2.5 hours, water bottle in the freezer. It's a fine line with it between getting it to not just be water or already freezing on its own, but if you can get it just right, it takes some practice and tinkering probably with your personal settings of your freezer. If you got it running colder, then maybe 2.5 hours is too
Right,
late.
and because when we did this, when we put it outside on our porch, every single water bottle in that case would do it as soon as
Oh,
you
it did.
flipped
Well, but
So it
we
was
lucked out.
Yeah, we lucked
It
out
was
with the
just,
temperatures.
it was that perfect little zone that we had found
Yeah.
it in. But literally, we would take it out from the porch, and every bottle of water we would have would be liquid, but it would be so cold. And we'd be like, what's
Right.
going on here? And as soon as we would go to drink it, it would just kaboom.
It was a slushy.
It would crystallize
It
into
was
that slushy ice thing. So kids especially will love it, but there's some trial and error with it. But
Yeah.
the overall notion, it's a cool thing to teach them that, yeah, water freezes at 32 most of the time.
So all you gotta do
Not
is
all the time.
put the water in the freezer, 2.5
2.5 hours.
Take it out. It's gonna feel super cold in your hands.
And I'm telling you, the best way for, you can shake it, but I think the best way to do it is give it like one of these toward the top.
And just watch the ice start
And then
forming.
that way you can watch the crystallizing just start trickling its way on down. It usually takes, 4 or 5 seconds of doing it. And then you look around and you go, wow, I just spent 2.5 hours of my life
So,
for this 4 seconds of a meteorology lesson.
and also, if you have fans of Frozen in the family, they can have fun pretending that they're freezing it with their bare hands.
They're like, they're literally doing it.
They
It's like
are.
they're Elsa.
Yes.
And let it go.
Let
Just
it-
like
let
this
it go.
Facebook Live. We're
Let
going
it
to
go.
let it go because we're running out of treats for Bolt, and I got to go to work. So thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck. If you get this to work, take some pictures, post it here on my Facebook page. We'll share them. Yes, Bolt says hi to everybody, too. All right. Have a good
Bye.
afternoon,
Thank
everybody.
you.